All right, what is up, guys? VV back with another video. And in today's video, we are actually going to be taking a look at a mono blue crocodile list. This list in particular is from a good friend of mine over at the Heart Pirates TCG, Joey. Okay, my good buddy Joey over at Heart Pirates TCG. Definitely go check out his video if you get a chance. I'll have a link somewhere in the comment section or in the content of this video where you'll be able to just go to it and check him out. This list is a mono blue OP04 crocodile list. The leader's ST03. Sorry if that was confusing. And it was a 500 player tournament, a PPG online treasure cup. Okay, and one other thing I wanted to mention is pretty cool how Ace won this tournament. That's awesome because there were Newgates, Katakuris, Crocodile, Trafalgar Law, Namis, you name it. Very awesome that Ace won, and even more awesome that my buddy Joey got top 8. So big grats to Joey over at the Heart Pirates TCG. Go check him out when you get a second. All right, so now let's go ahead and dive into this list. This list in particular, at least a lot of the aspects of it remind me, like the way that it plays, maybe not the aspects, but the way that the deck plays reminds me a lot of, or it looks a lot like how OP05's blue-black Sakazuki list is going to run. Just bounce everything you have, establish a board along the way, you know, establish some tempo, and beat your opponent that way. Just beat him down. Okay, so let me run through the list, and then we'll talk about it. So first up, start up at the top left here with Kaya. So 4 Kayas, 4 Miss All Sundays, 2 Ulti, 4 Sakazuki, 4 Centomaru, 2 Pacifista blockers, 4 Draco Mihawk, the 2K counter, 3 Pacifista, the vanilla, 3 Zeph, 3 Sogeking, 4 Draco Mihawk, 2 Kaido, and then 4 Dragon Twister Demolition Breath, 3 3000 Worlds, and 4 Gum Gum Red Rock. Awesome. So real quick, let me just get a few things out of the way. It's running 12 2K counters. Okay, let me just get that out of the way. I don't want to spend too much time on those. 4 Draco Mihawk, 4 Sakazuki, and 4 Kaya. So 12 2K counters, that is a pretty average amount, and works out just fine. Some people can get away with running 10 2K counters. Some people, you know, run up as many as 14 I've seen. So it really just kind of depends on what the deck's doing. Like, for example, with Blue Yellow Queen, they can go down to 8 2K counters because they actually depend on taking life so that they can generate card advantage that way and value that way. Okay, so next up I want to look at, let me just zoom in a little bit. We're going to come back to Miss All Sunday. This is a 3-cost, 1000 power, 1000 counter blocker that has on KO, if your leader's Baroque works, which it is, add an event from your trash to your hand. We're going to come back to this card because it is extremely good. But next up, we're going to talk about the Centomaru engine, and then we're going to talk about the bouncing and then the events. So Centomaru in this deck, it's just a 9-card package, 3 vanillas, 3 vanilla beaters, and 2 blockers that he can search up. For those who don't know how this card works, it is a 3-cost, 4000 power, 1000 counter card, character card that has Dawn ×1, activate main once per turn, pay 2, play up to 1 Pacifista with a cost of 4 or less from your deck, then shuffle your deck. That's doing quite a few things, right? Number 1, it's getting you a blocker if you need a blocker. Number 2, it's getting you a Pacifista beater if you need a beater. It's establishing a board for you. It is thinning out your deck. And it's allowing you to look inside. So think about it. You know what cards are on your field. That's public knowledge, right? That's knowledge for anyone. You know what cards are in your hand, even though your opponent doesn't. And you know what cards are in your't Now you know what cards are in your deck. So the last place that cards can be is your life. By using Centomaru's ability, you're going to be able to check out your deck cards, and you're going to be able to use the process of elimination or deductive reasoning or whatever to establish, like, okay, I'm pretty sure that this is in my life. Now, you won't be able to determine what order it's in, right? But you'll know what cards are in your life based on what you search for with Centomaru by being observant. And, I don't know how long you're allowed for time to, like, check your cards. And I'm not saying you should be obnoxious about it, but you should definitely count real quick, like, okay, how many Demolition Twister Breaths are in there? Or Dragon Twister Demolition Breaths are in my you know, can I count? What about 3,000 Worlds? What about Red Rocks? And ultimately, that's probably the main ones you want to look for, right? Other than that, it would be your Pacifistas and then the Centomarus. Like that would kind of be it. Because triggers are the main thing you're trying to look for, obviously, to see what's in there, to know what you can expect off the top of your deck. That's the main thing you should look for. So, okay. And yeah, you could look for something specific depending on what matchup it is or what point of the game it is, but I think you guys get my point. Okay, so that's the Centomaru engine. After that, let's talk about the bouncing that is going on in this deck. We've talked about 2K counters. We've talked about the utility engine. Now let's talk about these beaters and, like, well, some of it's more utility, like with ulti, but this Bruiser engine that also has momentum by bouncing characters back to hand. We're looking at 2 ultis. This can bounce a 2 or less. It can bottom deck, excuse me. I mean, it can bounce as well. It can bounce your own characters, but it can bottom deck characters as well. So ulti is bottom decking the cost of 2 or less characters to the, you know, it's dealing with the rush card, or excuse me, the rush decks, the aggro decks that have like tons of searchers and 2 cost cards as well. You know, 1 cost and 2 cost cards that it fills the board with. It just gets these out of your way. Zeph, same idea. It's bouncing 3 or less. Now, Sakazuki and Mihawk, they're hitting a 6 and a 7 respectively. That's a pretty big card, right? Bouncing a 6 cost or bouncing a 7 cost, that's very powerful. And Mihawk isn't bouncing to hand, it's bottom decking. And then you have Kaido, who's bouncing an 8 and a 3. Red Rocks down here at the bottom, these are hitting anything in the game. 3,000 Worlds are hitting 5 or less. And then Dragon Twister Demolition Breath is also hitting cost 1 or less. Cost of 1 or less back to the owner's hand. Okay, or excuse me, to the bottom of the owner's deck. So not to hand, but to bottom of deck. But then it has a trigger to bounce a 6 or less to the owner's hand. So you see what's going on here. Just tons and tons of triggers. Red Rock, bottom decks a 4 or less. 3,000 World, bottom decks a 3 or less off trigger. Just, it's pushing everything out of the way. That's the whole point of this deck. Establish a little bit of a decent engine down here with the Pacifistas and the Centomaru. Sit back on a good amount of 2K counters. And then just, you know, just totally out momentum, out tempo shift your opponent by playing these bounce characters. Because these are all bodies. These aren't all events like what we read at the bottom. These are, like, Zeph is a 5 cost 6K with a 1K counter. Sakazuki is a 7 cost 6K with a 1K counter. Mihawk is a 9 cost 9K. That's bottom decking cards. I mean, you see what's going on here, guys. It's not like you're just playing a 3,000 Worlds where it's like, okay, I used a card to get rid of one of their cards. No, you're playing a card that's getting rid of one of their cards and is also a body. It's like a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1 at minimum, right? At minimum. So outstanding stuff going on there. And the last thing I want to talk about is the event package. So we talked about Miss All Sunday a little bit. This blocker up here at the top. One of the most devastating plays you're going to come across, guys, at least in the current state of the game, against this deck, is, let's just say, I'm just going to say it like, I'm going to give an example. Say you play out a Kaido to get rid of all of their little characters that they had the turns prior. Right? Like, okay, I'll bounce this blocker and this guy out of my way. Now I have a 12K body. Okay, well now it's your opponent's turn to fight fire with fire, right? So let's just say they drop down, I don't know, like a Charlotte Linlin or something, or a Yamato or a Katakuri. Something along those lines, right? Or a 10 cost Kuzan. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Just a very large character. Even like Purple Kaido, or, you know, the 10 cost and 9 cost Purple Kaidos. Green Dofi, 10 cost Dofi. You get the point. So, okay, they play that up to combat your guy. Okay, that's a good play, sure. Well, unfortunately, that's probably going to be met with a Red Rock, followed up by a Miss All Sunday to get the Red Rock back when it gets KO'd, and then a leader, and this is a blocker, by the way, so they're going to be forced to run into it in some way if they don't have a way to bounce it, or top of life it, bottom deck it, you name it. Okay, and then on top of that, like we already know with Crocodile, this can also bounce a 5 or less out of the way as well on the leader's effect. For those who don't know, make sure you read Crocodile. It can -4 to bounce a 5 or less. So you see what's going on there, guys. It's just absolutely devastating. Like, in particular, I mean, a turn can go, I'll just play Kaido, bounce your 8 cost and your 3 cost, and then I will -4 Dawn to bounce a 5 cost out of the way. So you see what happened there, right? We got rid of an 8 cost, a 5 cost, and a 3 cost in one turn, established a 12k body, and probably swung for at least 5, depending on what was on the board. Then the following turn, you'll be back up to 8 Dawn. You can still red rock anything they had last turn and sit on a Dragon Twister Demolition Breath. And then if you didn't have to use your leader's effect, you could have just swung for 6 with your leader, bottom decked their biggest character, and then played a Missile Sunday, knowing you're getting that back. Missile Sunday in particular in this deck is unbelievable. It made me want to start playing the deck before I had really ever seen how good it would do. I was like, wait a minute, this is just crazy, because you're getting back your 2-cost 4k counters, you're getting back your 3k worlds or your red rocks. Just so powerful, so awesome, guys. But yeah, that's about it for all of that stuff there. I'm pretty sure I went over everything I wanted to. 2k counter package, utility package, bruiser package, event package, and then the bosses. It's just awesome, guys. It's just absolutely incredible. You know, this, you can see how this deck does well, right? It just kind of, some decks you look at how it is and you're like, how does that work, right? Like, how is that even any good? Not with this deck. With this deck, you see it and you're like, yeah, that looks disturbing. You know, that looks pretty good. Maybe that looks too good almost. And one thing I will say, guys, is like, okay, you know, yeah, I'm showing you this list, and OP05 is coming out in 1 month, right? Or like a little less than 1 month at the time of me recording this. So why am I showing y'all a dead list, quote unquote? I don't think it is. I mean, I don't know exactly how well it does into OP0 4.5 meta with the new red purple stuff and with the ban lists of, because I should mention that as well. Crocodile absolutely dominates Whitebeard. I think from talking to Joey over at Heart Pirates TCG, the toughest matchups it had was Katakuri. Katakuri, and then to some extent Law, if it gets that, you know, sometimes Law just pops off. We know what Law can do. Well, that was about it, okay? So now that Law is gimped, and now that, you know, Edward Newgate is just gone for 1 month, well, you know, maybe if there's a resurgence of yellow, then yeah, this list will be hurting a little bit. But if not, then I think this list can still do some damage, right? It can still wreck shop. So really cool. Now this is a sneak peek though. So that was where I was going with all that, is in OP05, in about 1 month away at the time we record this video, there is going to be a brand new leader in town named Sakazuki. Okay, guys, it is, let me bring up the leader real quick. 1 second. There we go. Sakazuki. This is the new leader coming out. It is a blue-black dual-color leader, 5,000 power, 4 life. It can attack, unlike Rebecca, and it has 2 effects on it. Activate main. Once per turn, trash 1 card from your hand to draw a card, so just built-in cycle. That in and of itself would have probably been strong enough. Okay? That in and of itself. And the color mixture, of course, of what it is, mixing blue and black as like a neutral leader. But then it has another effect of, when attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost during this turn. For those who are thinking, like, I know I've mentioned this before, but for those who are thinking like, oh, well, Isho had 2 effects and it wasn't any good. It's like, yeah, but Isho's effects cost Dawn, each of them. So you're operating on an 8 Dawn turn at best if you want both effects. Both of these effects are free, and they both should be worth about 1 Dawn each. Right, so it's almost like you're operating on a 12 Dawn turn, where you're getting all this extra potential and momentum. Just awesome. And for those who don't know, this deck is doing very well right now in the East. Now that, you know, it doesn't always apply to the West. Things do change, but I think you guys see what's going on there. Very, very powerful. Where you're going to be able to combo this with any kind of Navy removal, Navy cost reduction, and then any kind of blue removal, which we know is already strong enough. And there's going to be even more cards coming out in OP05 for Navy. Let me go and put that in real quick, and we'll take a look at whoops. I just want to show y'all one card in particular that's coming out in OP05 that is going to be really powerful in Houndblaze. Houndblaze here. This is a removal spell, or excuse me, event. This is a removal event. That is, it's a 2 cost to remove a 2k, or excuse me, a cost 2 or less. That is already good, at least compared to what black can do, because I've done this. I've shown this example before in my video that talks about power creep. This is what a lot of the decks running black are used to in a card. It's something like Meteor Volcano, where it's like, okay, I will pay 2 to KO a 1 or less. Right? That's kind of what we're used to over in black, or having to trash a card from our hand to KO, like in the case of Sakazuki, like the leader effect. This leader, pause if you want to read the whole thing, but excuse me, in order to KO a character, you're having to trash a card from hand. Same thing with the characters, right? Like Kobe, you know, KO a 3 or less, you're trashing a card from hand to do it. Where's Sakazuki at? I'm sure he's right. Where is he? He's like right in front of me. Here he is. On play, KO a 5 or less. That seems really good, right? But you have to trash a card. Same thing with Garp. 5 cost Garp. Not the 2 cost Garp. That's a 2K counter as well. But we're looking for Garp. Here he is. Okay, trash one card from hand to KO a 4 or less. So again, the black cards are used to being able to KO cards, but it usually costs them an arm and a leg to do so, so to speak. However, here's where it gets really interesting. Here's where it gets really interesting. Is like the blue cards, like black KOs and blue either bounces to hand or bottom deck. Well, that's just better. And it's hitting a bigger range. Like with this Houndblaze, for example, remember, we just looked at a 2-cost event for black that KOs a 1 or less. Well, this is a 2-cost event in blue that bottom decks a 2 or less. So it's already hitting a bigger range, and it has the additional effect of up to one of your leader character cards gains plus 3,000 power during this turn. Wow. Right. That very nice. Very, very strong. And then place up to 1 character with a cost of 2 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. Just extremely powerful, guys. It's getting access to that. It's getting access to Borsellino. This is a new Navy card coming out in OP05 as well. 7 costs 8,000 power. That's massive. With on play, place up to 1 character with a cost of 4 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. For those who might be thinking like, oh, well, you're paying 1 more, but you're bottom decking 1 less than what Sakazuki could do. The 6 cost 7K. Yes and no. You're getting a bigger body, which is harder to deal with, and offensively and defensively. And then on top of that, you're bottom decking a 4 or less. And remember what the leader does in this deck. You're making it a 5 or less, period. Like, it's a 5 or less printed. It might as well say that because of the leader's effect. So, it's extremely good, guys. And you're not trashing a card either. It's just so good. Very, very strong. And there's a few other cards, I'm sure. We're not going to go over all of those, but I just wanted to kind of show you guys what's on the horizon. For blue, I know it's not mono blue like what we just looked at for Joey's list, this crocodile list. I understand this is mono blue, but blue-black Sakazuki will kind of be the natural progression of this deck. So, okay, guys, that's about it for today's video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to check out Joey. Big grats to Joey for getting top 8 in an event this large. That was like a tongue twister. And, yeah, just all-around good stuff. So, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, guys, peace.